another hot topic, man, is the the lack thereof of NFL black coaches. Once again, it seems like every year, man, it's the same old song.
Yeah.
As far as not hiring black coaches, and they've kind of tweaked that word now to minority head coaches.
And I think that's kind of I call a little bit of BS on that.
Yeah.
The issue is this: the NFL is 70% black as far as players go.
Right.
And the coaching ranks, have vacillated between literally less than 10% to maybe about 15% at an absolute peak. And it's just way out of line. Exactly. And I think that there's this media thing where it's kind of like, well, let's throw in Ron Rivera. He's Hispanic.
Yeah.
And let's throw in Robert Saleh, who's Lebanese, I believe, or from the Middle Eastern country, and kind of group it and say, well, minorities now represent a better number. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
This is a very specific discrimination toward black coaches, and it's unjust. It's
right.
not, and it's crazy. It's this, the weird narrative is that these owners who are almost uniformly white only relate to these white coaches and this and that. And it's crazy because, like, a lot of these coaches are getting pulled up, and they're super young. They don't have a lot of the white guys. They're super young. They don't have great resumes, strong resumes and experience, and they're not necessarily even players of significance.
Right.
That you're going that route, and they're getting these head jobs. And, for every Sean McVay, there's a handful of dudes like Adam Gase and what's the guy that always ends up back with the Patriots? Offensive guy.
Yeah.
And they suck.
They really do, man.
And it's just insane. And it just every year it happens over and over again. You hear about the Rooney Rule, which I guess obligates a team to interview at least one minority coach. And that's not resulting in any hires.
Exactly. And also, so here's an excerpt from the NFL News. It says the NFL expanded the Rooney Rule to give more minority candidates opportunities to become a head coach, right? And reward teams who develop them. So, they came up with a rule about, maybe a secondary, first round pick, things of that nature, additional first round pick. If you hire a black head coach or minority head coach who already in your coaching staff or on a coaching staff or things of that nature, right? So they said more interviews didn't equal more hirings this offseason. So according to a report, candidates known to have interviewed for 7 head coach openings this month alone, or this past month now. Oh, no, we're still in January. 11 were minorities and 16 were white, right?
Yeah.
So only 2 of the 7 jobs went to minorities. But, of course, one, as we already stated, was Lebanese. And
right.
and we talked about this off camera where, in the last, help me out here, what is the report? Census, Lebanese is actually considered white.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and you can Google Lebanese and white, and there is a serious argument about it, but a lot of Lebanese consider themselves white, and
well, I would say it's better. It's more accurate to say that they don't consider themselves black.
Right.
Yeah, they're either proudly Lebanese, or they would generally fall into the category. Put themselves in the category of white.
Right, and then the other guy who, honestly, man, I looked it up before we got here. The guy who they hired for the Houston Texans that, ended up where Deshaun Watson still wanted to lead him after they hired him. What's his name is David
Calley.
David Calley. I still can't tell whether that guy's black or not. I mean, he looks like a white guy when you look at him, man. He just looks like a white guy.
That was my very first impression. A friend of mine from high school posted a picture announcing the hire, and my first comment to him was, they hired another honky. And then he did some research. I did some research, and he is African American. He's very light in complexion.
I still don't believe it. I mean, he looks looks. I mean, maybe a white guy with a tan, but he just looks just regular white guy to me. I mean, I still don't see it.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I mean, apparently he was the first black quarterback to play for Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And,
I see how he got into Vanderbilt.
And he's been, and he's. I mean,
there was none after him either.
And,
you know.
And the hiring itself. I mean, wish this guy the best luck. I have nothing against him.
Right.
But here's a little bit. I don't know the fact that he doesn't look particularly black is part of the why he got hired in some weird way.
Mm-hmm.
His resume, he's apparently a well-liked guy in the league. That's great for him, but he's never been a coordinator,
right?
Or obviously a head coach in the league. And there's a general progression. And if we're going to criticize the resume of a guy like Joe Judge, who is a special teams coach for the Patriots, that's got to go both ways and say, well, David Calley, this is not a guy who's a coordinator,
right?
Or been a head coach at any level. And I think that's like kind of a legitimate question as to why he got hired. And I mean, ostensibly he was the Ravens passing game coordinator.
Yes.
And the Ravens passing game didn't exactly set the league alight.
At all.
This is a playoff team, but they led the league in rushing, and that's their bread and butter.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of just strange things about his resume. The other side of this coin, if we're going to go back to guys like Leslie Frazier, like Eric Bieniemy and what have you, Houston in its current situation is not a good job.
No.
You've got Deshaun Watson, who's the face of the franchise, a high-level quarterback is committed to leaving, reiterated that after the coaching hire. You've also got the other big figure in that team is J.J. Watt, and there's talk he may be on his way out of the team too. So you're looking at a serious rebuild. And what we know, to the extent that black head coaches have existed and had opportunities, those opportunities are fleeting.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're not given a lot of sort of second chance or a lot of leeway in developing teams. Historically, they're getting jobs that are not particularly good jobs, which fits the profile of the Texans, and they're giving a short time to turn the program around and achieve some success, or they're out.
But here goes the thing. I don't see where it can change. Because I do feel like the NFL is doing pretty much everything in their power. Adam and those guys, they're doing pretty much. I mean, as they're going to the extent of, we will give you a draft pick just if you hire one of these guys.
Right,
I
exactly.
mean, please,
Yeah.
But all these owners, they're a tight knit group. And we can't get a black owner in or a minority owner in anyhow. I mean, Jay-Z is trying to sneak his way through the back door just to.
Well, what team's he working with?
Huh? He's a part of he's a part of the league, and he had something to do with the Kaepernick getting a workout and things of that nature. Like,
okay,
he's a part of some initiatives and things to do with the NFL, but he has huge aspirations to own an NFL team.
Oh, but he's not like he's in talks with any particular team for an ownership interest.
No, I mean,
okay.
No, I mean the last team that changed ownership hands, I believe was the Vikings. Were the Vikings? I could be wrong.
Didn't they run out the Panthers guy?
The Panthers guy, that may be the most recent.
Yeah,
Panthers and Vikings. But and even then, I'm pretty sure they vote on it, right? All the owners, all the owners, they get together and they vote on who's going to. So it's going to be tough, man. And so you have all these older, rich white guys, and even if it's fair to. It's not. I don't know. Maybe it's not. May not even be racism because these coaches are coming in and they see these young white coaches as their sons and grandsons. It's like they.
Well, that's certainly a product of racism to see that.
It is. Yeah.
This relatability, and it's tied to the narrative of, well, I want a coach who looks like me.
Right.
Well, your team doesn't look a damn thing like you old fat fuck. I mean, like, come on now. It's not what this is about. You're about, you buy a team to win games and win titles and stuff like that. And the players don't look like you. I don't know why the coach needs to. In all fairness, but I do think that like there's a certain like trendiness of it, as it were, and I kind of put that with a guy like Sean McVay. Got a head coaching job extremely early in his career. He's done quite well. Appeared in a Super Bowl. Had another playoff run this season. And, And I think like again, I think two of his assistants have gotten head jobs. I think the
Right.
Chargers guy, and I thought there's one other guy that has a tie to McVay, and so he's already in his mid-30s. He's younger than some of his players. He's already has a coaching tree, which is crazy. And I mean, I get the allure of maybe trying to hire one of these guys, but man, Andy Reid's no joke, and
No,
Bieniemy's
man.
coming from there. And Bieniemy's a former player in the league and stuff like that, and he's coordinated at a high level. Leslie Frazier, Todd Bowles had a run with the Jets. He's a guy that's had an experience thing. One guy that needs to be given a little bit of credit in this discussion is Bruce Arians.
Oh, yes, man.
All three of his coordinators, offense, defense, and special teams, are African American coaches.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the majority of his staff. I don't know exactly how many people you have, but like literally, I was looking at something. He has, I think, 7, 8 African American coaches on that staff.
Right.
Now, if you want to push progress, in a way, that's kind of what Bruce is doing.
That's kind of what he's doing, man. He's kind of sticking it to right.
You're loading the deck of coaches with experience in this level.
Exactly.
And so if more people keep doing that, the only people who understand, it'll mirror the league.
Right.
If 70% of the coaches mirror the 70% of the players that are in the league, now you're going to say, well, I mean, that's where the elite knowledge is.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people that do it. They played it, they coached it, and these are the guys that get it done.
Right, and you're cornering the market, so to speak, because if more teams do that, then like how are you going to continue to look over these guys for who?
Right. Yeah.
You're going to just bring up college guys now because I mean we do have a similar issue in college football, but then I mean it'll just get crazy then. But yes, so if more guys,
but it's
like
one of
Bruce
those things. It's almost like a revolutionary tactic. It's not necessarily going to result in a change in this cycle or even the next one.
Right.
But if more coaches are given that opportunity, that's where the experience is going to lie. That's where the opportunity is going to go.
Exactly.
Because you're not going to have an option in that regard. So I applaud Bruce Arians for that. Another thing I really find suspicious is there's like this, even when Callie got the job with the Texans, it's this notion that like Eric Bieniemy must be a terrible interview.
Yeah, man.
I think that's like an unfair characterization. I don't think. I mean, maybe I'm a little off on this, but I don't think you get NFL head coaching jobs in an interview.
Yeah.
Like, it's more than that. It's your resume. It's what you've accomplished, your reputation in the league. All that stuff walks into the interview room before you physically get there.
Exactly.
And to say that's, I mean, because the implication is he has an unquestionably successful resume.
Mm-hmm.
The implication is that he is so horrific in a face-to-face interview that it's not good enough to get a job, it's good enough to diminish his actual resume.
Right.
Like,
that's what it really comes down to.
That's literally coming in and taking a shit on the couch.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Tony Dungy, a former well-decorated head coach, African-American coach. I mean, he really shits on that idea of that, these black coaches are having, terrible interviews, such as Eric Bieniemy, because, first of all, he explains the interview process, and it's just like, it's really nothing, to it. It's, it's not like you're at IBM or Google and you have this strenuous interview. It's nothing like that of the sorts. I mean, you're coming in, and what they want to know is what's your, ideally they want to know what's your plan for this team. How do you plan to turn this team around? What are some of your, best X and O plays? Give us 2 or 3. And, and really the rest of the interview is, shits and giggles. I mean,
right.
He says that's really what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, like, to me, on most of this stuff, you do the research on the back end. On the front end, whether you hire a search firm, whether you, you vet people with other people in the league that and are familiar with. And if they're not doing that, if they're, if these hires are being made more off the cuff, I mean, that's just ownership incompetence.
Yeah.
And maybe that explains why the Lions always suck.
Yeah.
And certain teams, have just in steady decline.
Right.
It's hard to fathom. It needs to change. It's not representative of the league. And, the one thing, like when you do compare like ownership groups, I think the NBA owners are younger by and large. I think there's a certain trendiness to ownership in the NBA. That's like the NFL is old school. It's traditionalist. It's older owners and stuff like that, and that needs to be unsettled, whether by death or by something else. We need to mix that bag up and pull something else out.